Ciao Milanisti and welcome back. And I really want to start off this week's video by saying a massive thank you for the the amount of views I got on last week's vid. So on the weekend with the De Ketelaere and his sort of arrival video. I've never sort of reached those numbers before on this channel. I don't think any of the other vids we've already done before has really reached those numbers. So it's obviously a collaborative effort with all yourselves out there watching and showing some love for the videos that we make here, and obviously even got a few views from some Club Brugge fans. So I was really thankful for that. But always onwards and upwards, I guess. That news doesn't sort of with CDK joining the club doesn't quite evaporate. Obviously his signing has just been made official this week, a couple of days ago, from the point of making this video, and sort of the hype train is still there. But I think with everything involved with the player, and we spoke a lot about him and his profile last week, where he really fits his best position and his versatility. Where does it fit in with our formation? And of course, it's a no-brainer. He should be potentially starting at cam, but we have another good problem to have, which is another player doing really well this preseason, and that is Yacine Adli. And I think he's the person I want to talk about this week. And I said at the start of pre-season, like the week before, I did a video obviously talking about the players I'm really interested to see and how they perform. He was up there with Tommaso Pobega, who unfortunately has had some injuries since the FC Cologne match, so we've not really been able to see what Pobega's sort of his output is like so far. But obviously I'm still confident that he's going to be a good player. But I've been really above and beyond surprised about Yacine Adli. I knew he had some good talent about him, but the way he's just quickly embedded himself into this side, somewhat trumping Brahim Diaz of his starting spot, which I don't think is too hard to do. But just, really surprising. It leaves Pioli with a bit of a head scratcher. How does he fit in De Ketelaere and Yacine Adli together in the same formation, potentially making up that sort of quartet up front with Rafael Leao and Olivier Giroud or Origi, whoever sort of starts at the striker position. It's sort of a head scratcher, and I think we're going to talk about today of why Yacine Adli is doing so well for this side and probably his best attributes that I've noticed so far. Before I get into the profile and why I probably like Yacine Adli so much, and why we all probably like him so much and what we've seen so far this pre-season, I just sort of want to claw us back. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was one of the first friendlies he played in, he took the number 7 shirt. And a few of us were probably like, this doesn't really make sense. He's not really a number 7 player, not a winger. That's a question for sort of, does that mean that we're not going to sign a winger? And, obviously after signing Junior Macias and Alexis Salamega's not really getting any concrete bids for him. Does that sort of kill that hope? And obviously De Ketelaere was always going to take the number 90 shirt. And that's why I always felt about it. And then there was even this hope that Rafael Leao might take the number 7 shirt and change to a number 17. Something that, it's not that deep when it comes to numbers, but I do think the fact that he took the number 7 shirt was a sign of his confidence. Probably was a sign of the confidence that the club had in him. Very similar to the whole Brahim Diaz number 10 scenario, and something that's not quite yet fallen into place, but at least with Adli it could represent a similar thing there. We have a player here who has idolised Zinedine Zidane, Jorginho, the ex Lyon sort of legend with set pieces and whatnot, and when you really look at his profile, we don't have anyone else like that at the club. Obviously, the technical ability, the vision, we'll come on to that in a bit, but we don't have anyone in that advanced position who is a natural creative cam. And I'm just really happy. And it's sort of, I look at signs like that, I look at the fact he took the number 7 shirt and the confidence behind that, and I really like it. So really now it's time to talk about why I like the player so much on the pitch. So from following his first few games in pre-season, he's naturally played in the centre attacking midfield position. That doesn't mean to say that he's a strict one. Obviously, with our formation, what you see isn't exactly what you get. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of versatility required to be, especially in these sort of midfielder positions, in the winger positions. It's not as strict as it may seem on paper. He does move about quite a lot. Obviously, he kind of fits himself into that number 8 spot, really drops in deep and helps, create and start possession in midfield, because he's very comfortable with the ball, and he's very comfortable to make sort of passes in between the lines, something, like I said, we don't really have right now on the side. And when you compare him to a Brahim Diaz, for example, a decent dribbler of the ball. That I would say would probably be his best attribute, Diaz, the fact that he's got a good low centre of gravity. But now he seems to be, being found out for the fact that he is quite weak, and the fact he can't really shrug off these defensive midfielders, which now allows us to open ourselves up to another level of, what will De Ketelaere sort of bring in with his physicality, and the fact that he can make up for something that Diaz doesn't have. Adli is something different. It's sort of a good different for me. Sort of when you look at De Ketelaere and Adli, there's sort of yin and yang here. Both very good with technical ability, but the way they sort of position themselves and play on the ball, there are some differences there in a sense. And I think we can really make the most of Adli and what he can bring to our game here. He drops off deep in the sort of number 8 position, does really want to get involved with the way the build-up play happens, which is great because when you sort of combine him with, Sandro Tonali, Benacer, you can get some good transitions in play there. And the fact that, he has such a good outlet of a ball, he can get those sort of wing backs, those wingers into some very, interesting scenarios to really punish full-backs and centre-backs. Really been impressed so far of what he's been doing. And, I sort of made some observations of the player. The first thing I saw, how he's such an instinctive and a natural passer. Very comfortable, very comfortable. And even so, he passes and positions himself really well through the lines. Like I said, we don't really have players like that. We seem to struggle, especially when teams box themselves in and we can't really find that killer through ball or, that final touch here or there. We have players that are very good in transition, very good on the counter-attacks. We don't really have those sort of players that can, maybe break apart a very strict midfield or the defensive structure. He's someone you just kind of see him willing to do a bit more than just the basics, sideways passing. And I know we are going to miss Kessie in a sense, but I look at someone like Adli and it's like that's an upgrade there. These are players who can do really well breaking down these really tough defensive base side teams, and also very good from the counter-attack as well, because he's not a slow player. He's got some good versatility towards him, can move about on the pitch very well, and the fact he's a great presser. Talking about CDK last week, that's one of his best abilities, the way he presses and wins back the ball so much. Adli's the exact same, probably not as good as De Ketelaere, but really good as well. And it's really sort of moving this identity of a team that we're trying to, instill and embed, that the fact that this team is a hard-working side, very good technical abilities, which obviously will lead to the output of making more goals happen. But, we want to be a side that controls possession more often. And if we lose it, we got that pressing nature to win the ball back as quick as possible. So I made that note from him as well. I was like, really impressed me with the way he presses so well. And the fact he drives with the ball really well. He's not like a sort of, like a playmaker that just kind of gives the ball up as much as possible. He can drive with it really well, offers that variation in his play. So I'm really excited when I see Adli play. I think we all kind of are, because he gets on the ball, you're not quite sure what he's going to do next in a good way. Was he going to drive with it? Is he going to make that killer through ball? He's picked up a goal so far in pre-season. It was a simple sort of tap in off the rebound of a shot. After Salamaker's shot, and then the keeper sort of hit it back out to him, and it's a quick, easy rebound. I'm not really looking to him for goals. I'm looking for him for creativity and the way he can sort of slice open midfields and defences. And I think this is a player that we've definitely needed when you really look at the rest of the players in our squad. Now, where do we go from here? We just signed De Ketelaere. We've got Yacine Adli having a very good pre-season. Obviously, Brahim Diaz will probably be starting off the bench when it comes to the start of the season. He will find some opportunity. I do believe in that, but I like the fact that there's this competition now. It's not just Daniel Maldini. It's not just Rade Krunic. It's not just Kessie playing him out of position. There are some natural centre attacking midfielders here who will really keep Brahim Diaz on his toes. And if he wants to get some game time, if he wants to start, he will have to elevate his overall game of play. If not, he'll be out the door next season because we won't take up the loan deal. That's a story for another day. But will De Ketelaere and Yacine Adli, can they coexist? Because, I spoke about De Ketelaere's versatility. Yes, he can. We can put him on the right. I do feel like this is where it's going to come down to Pioli kind of inventing something different here, because he's not a natural right winger. Where does that leave his starting position for De Ketelaere and Yacine Adli as well? Can he find something? Can he really work on something here? And it's a bit of a head scratcher, because I don't think it's an easy, sort of he goes here and he goes there and it will just sort of slot into place. I do feel like it's going to come down to building some chemistry between the players here and really seeing what's the best sort of output for us there. So it's a bit of a head scratcher. Do we play Adli at the number 8 position? I'm not saying we drop Sandro Tonali, but that's the whole thing of the whole rotation rotation aspect of our game. When Tonali's not playing, or if we want to shift things up, maybe drop Tonali a bit deeper and kind of play in the Benacer role if he needs to be. We can play Adli as that second centre midfielder, the one that kind of goes forward a bit more, helps, you know, creatively between the lines. So, you know, that could be an option there. And sort of, it kind of, you know, kind of goes back round to, is this attack good enough? These are the three questions I have here. You know, what future lies upon us with the whole De Ketelaere and Yacine Adli? Can they coexist in the same starting 11? Should he play at the number 8 position? And is the attack good enough now? Because if you look at, you break it down, we've got 9 to 10 players for the front 4 positions. Giroud, Origi, Ibrahimovic, obviously back in 2023 at the striker position. You could even, you know, count De Ketelaere there as well, but obviously he's in the sort of the cam with Yacine Adli, Brahim Diaz. On the right, we have Macias and Salamakers. On the left, we have Rebic and Rafael Leao. That's it. 9 to 10 players there, really, for those front 4 positions. I personally can't see us adding any more unless we shift someone, because it's a numbers game. Maldini and Pioli's always said they want to sort of reduce squad, that everyone really inside this squad is going to have some output to the side. So we can't just sign Ziyech and, you know, let Salamakers rot on the bench. It just doesn't work out that way. Someone has to go for someone to come in. But that being said, is this attack good enough? You know, I like to think it is. Of course, we can make some upgrades, but what we're looking at right now is definitely much better than last season, because we have 2 new players in the attack with Yacine Adli and De Ketelaere, which is a massive upgrade on Brahim Diaz. And it's really going to be interesting of where Pioli kind of, if he can, fit them both together. And, you know, I trust the coach, because we do things that are not traditional. You know, it's not how it seems. Rafael Leao plays, if anything, more of a sort of inward forwards as opposed to a traditional left winger. We defend in a 4-5-1, but we attack in a very different sort of aspect, especially with the fullbacks. So I'm really interested to see that happens. But for this week, guys, I'm just kind of praising what I've seen so far with Yacine Adli. I think he's a player we can rely upon heavily next season. And I'm really interested, you know, to see where he goes. He just turned 22 years old. Perfect age. You know, I love the identity that our club has right now. These young players, hungry players, really willing to show what they can on the pitch. There's this no pressure mentality. I'm really enjoying the football, and I'm so happy with sort of adding some signings to the mix as well. But until next time, guys, Forza Milan.